here is my plan for what I'm going to do in 2025 and 2026 based on the price of Bitcoin. First of all, 100% of my liquid assets are in Bitcoin. That goes both for the money I live on as well as my charitable giving funds. So I'm like 100% Bitcoin. Now, my wife manages a small emergency reserve that is not in Bitcoin, and that was set up in 2014 when Baumgar Corporation sold, and I knew I had a very high risk tolerance, and I knew that I have a very high risk tolerance, just to say it twice. So I wanted to make sure that if I completely screwed up absolutely everything, which thankfully I have not, but that if I did, our children would not go hungry. And obviously, I get my paycheck from Prospera, and I'm full-time employed with Prospera, so I have a job too. Anyway, so here's my plan for 2025 and 2026. So because my net worth, including my charitable giving funds, are 100% in Bitcoin, that means the wealth I have, both to live and to give away money, is denominated in Bitcoin. So we're going to use just round numbers of 114,000 as the price of Bitcoin. So what am I doing in 2025 and 2026? I'm living my life like Bitcoin is worth $114,000. And when the price of Bitcoin changes, that will change. So right now, I feel like I can afford nice vacations. I can afford my Tesla. I can afford basically anything I want to do. At $114,000 per coin, I can do absolutely everything I want to do relatively aggressively. Still can't get crazy. Got to be reasonable. I drive a Tesla, not a Lamborghini, right? I mean, I'm a rational person. So I live a relatively modest lifestyle with relatively modest things, but given my modest tastes, I can basically splurge pretty aggressively with Bitcoin at 114,000. Like, I can eat at whatever restaurants I want. I can tip, I tend to tip very aggressively. I can tip a lot, which often includes tips of like 50% or 100% or 150% of the price of the meal. So what is going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen in 2025 and 2026 with Bitcoin. Bitcoin could dip to $80,000. I don't know. I don't think it will, but it could. Bitcoin could go up to $180,000. I think that's more likely. There's no way of predicting that. But I will live, within my means, and the means I have to live are denominated in Bitcoin. So that will determine what that is. So at $114,000 Bitcoin, obviously I'm feeling very good about my finances and very good about everything. And that will only get better on the way to $1 million per coin. If 100,000 a coin makes me feel great about my finances, which it does, then $1 million a coin makes me feel 10 times as good about my finances, which it one day will. Same with my charitable giving. At my charitable giving level at $114,000 per Bitcoin, I am relatively aggressive with my ability to give away money. I spend, on charitable causes, I spend at least $25,000 a month, per month, literally per month. I am giving away, ballpark, call it $25,000 a month to various causes, from Christian missions to church to a lot of efforts related to the education and onboarding of people to Bitcoin. But at $114,000 per coin, I can give away $25,000 per month for a very long time of charitable giving funds. Now, if the price of Bitcoin starts to dip, I got to rein that in a little bit. So maybe instead of $25,000 a month being my charitable giving budget, maybe I've got to cut back to $20,000 a month. So if Bitcoin did dip to $80,000 per coin, which is a 33% price correction off of 120. Obviously, we went up to 123, so that would have to be even a little bit more than a 33% price correction. But if we dip to 80,000, I would, first of all, I'd ride it out. I mean, I wouldn't make any changes to my charitable giving over the first few months. But if it became clear that we were in a long-term bear market and we were not going to see six-figure Bitcoin for a long time, like a year, then yeah, I would have to be a little more conscious about what I'm doing with my charitable giving funds. I would not want to be burning through $25,000 US dollars of Bitcoin every month with Bitcoin at 80,000. I can afford to do that at Bitcoin at 114. Likewise, if the price goes up, I get more aggressive in my charitable giving. So if the price goes to 200,000 a coin, I can ramp my charitable giving from $25,000 a month to $35,000 or $40,000 per month. I'm always just calculating, okay, what is the price of Bitcoin? How much Bitcoin do I have to work with in my charitable funds? How much Bitcoin do I have to work with my personal funds? And how long does that Bitcoin need to last? In both cases, I'm trying to make that Bitcoin last for the rest of my life. Now, I'm constantly buying more Bitcoin, so that gets easier and easier over time as I buy my more Bitcoin. But I want the ability to be able to live the rest of my life on just the Bitcoin I have. And I want the ability to give charitably, very aggressively for the rest of my life with just the Bitcoin I have. Now, hopefully, I have substantial stock in Prospera, and hopefully that will be liquid at some point in the future, which would, make my net worth much, 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 much higher than it is today. But that is an unknown. The timing of that is unknown. Even though Prospera is a very valuable company, it is not liquid, which means I cannot use Prospera stock to buy things right now. But at some point in the future, if Prospera goes public or, there is some other liquidity event, then, well, first of all, it means if there's a liquidity event that results in me getting US dollars, I will immediately convert those to Bitcoin. But regardless, if my net worth increases substantially, I'll do the same thing, which is probably modestly ramp up my personal expenses from a lifestyle perspective and aggressively ramp up my charitable giving. Because my charitable giving is I can afford to be more aggressive on a percentage basis with those funds than I can with personal funds, just because personal funds has to support 6 people and charitable giving is coming out of a relatively large pot. And that is 100% denominated in Bitcoin, so it's done really well. But I don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin in 2025 or 2026. Just like the 2 videos I recorded earlier today, I'm in the same camp of I think there's between a 50% and a 51% and 60% chance. So greater than 50, but just barely. I think we're past the 4-year cycles. I think we'll probably grind up from here with various price corrections of 33% along the way. And if we get a big price rise, a sudden spike in the price of Bitcoin, to $200,000, yeah, I can see, or let's call it 220, 240. Yeah, if we get a price, a sudden rise to $240,000, absolutely I can see a 50% price correction after that, back to 120. So who knows? All I can do is what everyone does, which is you adjust your spending based on your perception of your earnings ability and your wealth. And you adjust those to try to make sure you don't run out of money. And that's what I do with Bitcoin. Since I'm 100% Bitcoin for both personal funds and charitable funds, I adjust my personal expenditures based on how much Bitcoin I have and how long it needs to last. I'm 45 years old, so I would like my Bitcoin to last for at least another 55 years. My kids already know that they're not going to inherit a lot of money. My will is set up, and my kids know this, to cover their health care and education. And if there's money left over, to cover their kids' health care and education. But at no point do my kids end up with just a big lump sum of money smack in their lap. I'm not opposed to people who do that. I just think, you got to really, really, really work hard to manage incentives, because people who have a ton of money that suddenly falls in their lap tend to not behave well. I've just known a lot of rich people over my days, and the ones who just gave their kids a bunch of money, that tended to not go well. But I want to be able to very aggressively give away money for a very long time. So anyway, on my personal expenses, I'm just monitoring that to make sure that they last for 55 years and that there's plenty left over to pay for my kids' healthcare and education and my grandkids' healthcare and education. And I plan to give the rest away. And as far as charitable giving funds, they only need to last as long as I do. My view is I earned that money, and so I will give it away. And if my kids want to give away a bunch of money, they will earn a bunch of money themselves, and they will give away. But the people who are best at allocating capital are the people who earned it. And in my case, with me and my wife, we earned the money that is on our charitable giving funds. And so I fully intend to give all of that money away. Because, again, I think whoever earns the money tends to have the best ability to allocate that capital to good causes. So anyway, that is the plan. It's worked well so far, and that is the plan for the long haul. So don't try to predict the price of Bitcoin. It's impossible to know what the price is going to be tomorrow or next week. In fact, you'll notice over the last 3 weeks, I had at least 2, if not, I guess 2 paychecks hit at a price higher than today. and I immediately bought Bitcoin. If I knew that the price was going to be $114,000 today, obviously I would not use a paycheck and buy Bitcoin at $120,000 or $118,000. I would wait and buy it at $114,000. But nobody, not you, not me, not Michael Saylor, not James Check, nobody knows what the price of Bitcoin is going to be next week or next month. And so all you can do is buy Bitcoin with whatever money you have as soon as you can and sit on it for as long as conceivably possible. That is the only strategy that consistently works. I will continue to do that in 2025 and 2026. And in the meantime, I will check the price of Bitcoin periodically, and I will live my life in a very sustainable, modest, and sustainable way, so that I make sure I've got plenty of Bitcoin for the future, and I've got plenty of charitable giving funds for the future as well. And that's my plan. It basically doesn't matter what happens with the price of Bitcoin, because I have a plan regardless. In all scenarios, whether Bitcoin goes straight up or has a major price correction, I'm going to live my life based on the net worth that price tells me I have. And that's worked well, and that's what I plan to do. Have a great evening.